So welcome everyone to the February chapter meeting. Just a couple more virtual chapter meetings in our future, and after April we'll be seeing everyone again live and in person, and we're really looking forward to that. So after our April 19th conference, the symposium, then we'll be moving back into in-person chapter meeting.
Starting with
Nice.
our AI conference.
Starting with that being in person, and then the chapter meeting following.
Very exciting.
So let's go on my screen here. So upcoming events, we've kicked the year off kind of quietly, but things are ramping up now as they normally do as we get into the year. So Wednesday, March 2nd from 5 to 6:30, we have another career building workshop with Mani Farhadi, Richard Dick Smith, and Pamela Anderson Brule leading that. That is Wednesday. And then Thursday following that on March 3rd from 12 to 1, CRAN has a discussion forum. So if you'd like to join that, it'll be a discussion engaging in various topics based on ideas and questions that come about. So it sounds like it's broad, wide open conversation to be had with the CRAN forum. And Sketching Together, March 12th. Sisan has been a superstar at leading that all the way through the pandemic, virtually for quite some time. They're now back in person. So bring your sketching equipment and your creativity and go sketch with them. This is at Halpern Family Wing at Stanford. And Architectural Intelligence, AI 22, the symposium. We just announced the opening keynote is Cheryl Durst. So very excited to make that announcement this week and start to gain some traction and excitement about the symposium. So we hope to see you there. You can register, sign up for sponsorship if you so desire. And if you need to reach out, Donna Musselman is heading up sponsorship, and all of this information is on our website. We look forward to seeing you there. And Mary is not joining us tonight, but we have a slide for the call for Jedi content that she shares with the members at each chapter meeting. Leah, do you want to take on speaking to that?
Sure, yeah, I can. You all might be familiar with this since we announced it at each chapter meeting, but the WIA is interested in acting as a springboard and an incubator for content that goes beyond just women in architecture and addresses a full scope of Jedi content. They are asking for people to reach out to them that are interested in presenting or starting a group or gathering resources to use the WIA's framework and resources that they have been successful with in hosting a lot of really great events and content over the years. So that it's not as scary or challenging to start something from scratch. So they're hoping to expand the WIA's reach into this sort of Jedi collective. And this is just our call that we ask for people to reach out. Who are they reaching? We should probably put contact information here. Chris, should they reach out to you, or what's the best person to reach out to?
They should reach out directly to Mary.
Okay.
So we'll add her contact information.
Mary Morris, or if you know anybody in the WIA, anyone will be able to filter this to the right person to help out.
Okay, and so backwards, this is our introduction to Leah Bear, our chapter president, current chapter president. And so she's going to go ahead and lead us off with the acknowledgements of our sustaining partners.
Sure, yeah. Just want to, again, thank our sustaining partners for this year. Earthbound Homes is our premier sponsor again for 2022. Thank you. Our gold sponsors, Black Construction, RJT, Level 10, and Bernardo Photography. We appreciate you. Thank you. Our silver sponsors are Lionakis, AWV, presented by Greg System, CAW, and CEDA. Thank you so much. And this is another general call to take the lead. We have a lot going on this year, a lot of exciting events planned for the rest of the year, signature events, and future events in 2023 that we're really looking for new people to join in to our committees and either participate just on a committee level or really take the lead in ownership over stepping into a leadership position, for example, helping us with putting together design awards. We are looking for people for our golf committee, for our home tours committees, the advocacy committee, programs committee. So if any of these things are of interest to you, please reach out to Chris or Veronica or myself, and let us know what you'd like to participate in if any of that sounds exciting. And also just a general note, many of you have been invited to our Basecamp space. This is a virtual collaborative platform that we've been using for some time and now are opening it to our members. We'll be opening this to the full membership shortly, and encourage you to reach out and let us know if you'd like to join. I don't know if you can hear crashing, but my cats somehow know always when I'm presenting and like to make a ruckus, so apologies for the cat noise. But we're really trying to create a space where people can continue discussions and collaboration with one another virtually, and leveraging the tools that we've had to use during the pandemic and finding a way to continue those connections as we move forward. So let us know if you'd like to join. If you've been invited, please communicate and participate, share your thoughts and ideas. It's been great so far. Again, shout out to Cran, who just jumped right in, has been awesome at using it, but many of our other committees are doing a great job. AI committee has really spearheaded the use of Basecamp, and I think it's been extremely successful.
I'll add also, Leah, to that there's going to be upcoming volunteer opportunities with both AI and the WLS conference. So day of volunteerism is going to be needed, and we'd love to have you participate. So if that's of interest to you, please let us know.
Great point. Thanks for doing that, Chris.
And we're a little early on our chapter meeting. So Leah, if you want to go through the up to the introductions, and then maybe we could open the floor up for some discussion and conversation about what we want to get out of this conversation with the presentation, so that when we get to the Q&A, that people have some idea of things that they're going to want to ask. We might be jumping the gun a little bit, but our presenters won't be on for another 10 minutes.
Can we make a cry out for program committee members?
Mm-hmm.
Can the programs committee really needs to grow. We're down to 3 people now.
And being back in person, it's going to be much more fun than it's been. Not that it hasn't been fun virtually, but it gets a little more exciting when we can start talking about tours again and site visits. We'll have catering and wine again for everyone. So I think it'll be much more enjoyable as we get back to our in-person. So if you have thoughts and ideas and you want to share them and help plan these programs and site locations, programs committee could definitely use your help.
We do. And we had our first in-person meeting a couple weeks ago anyway. So we're back to having an in-person programming meeting. So yes, if anyone would love to join, that would be fantastic.
I know back several years ago that was one of the most active committees that the chapter had. They had a pretty sizable group involved, so we'd love to see that happen again. If you're a past volunteer and you want to get back involved again, time to turn it around and start participating again. Or if you're new and haven't had a chance to be on a committee, it's really a great way to form relationships. And some of those last for years and years. They become friendships, and it's just a nice way to develop camaraderie.
I'd also ask
Thanks, Chris.
People who have perhaps participated before and know how fun and enjoyable that was to nominate some people that are in your network, perhaps some emerging professionals that could use a leadership opportunity. I think this is a great chance for them to meet a lot of membership and step into a leadership role and really understand what it is that the AIA does. So feel free to throw some ideas and names out there to any of us to make contact to see if they might be interested in joining us.
Yeah, that's a great point.
So I can introduce the meeting and the content, and then if we want to chat a bit about what people are looking forward to, that sounds good to me. So the objectives for the chapter meeting today: attendees will be exposed to the new values on urban planning, design, and architecture as part of the monumental undertaking to revitalize downtown San Jose. I know I'm really looking forward to hearing everything that's been going on and planned to go on downtown, because there's a lot of activity right now. Attendees will see examples of current and future projects that recognize the downtown and its need for a higher level of architecture. Plans for the expansion of public transportation to bring the area to the next level and move people back into the core are going to be shared. And then we'll learn a bit more about how the city of San Jose is learning from cities like Portland to compete with nearby shopping and create its own sense of place. So really bringing activity, architecture, community, culture back to that downtown core and celebrating what has always been there. I think elevating it to a place of visibility and excitement and celebration. So great topic to discuss, and maybe we turn it back to the group and see, what attracted you to this topic, and what are you interested in hearing more about? We'll take some notes to ask the speakers if they don't cover it.
Well, I can say that, first of all, I think this downtown San Jose has been kind of neglected. It's suffered from a lot of upturn in the economy and then downturn in the economy. And so there's been a lot of neglect in downtown. As far as speaking as an architect, the city leaders really weren't interested in architecture. It was more about space. And so even new projects that have been built are a little less than desirable, right? It didn't really spark anything in the downtown. It was just space that was developed. So I think what is happening now is very exciting, because they're really looking at the urban core. They're really looking at, what can we do to make the downtown a place where you would want to go, besides to go see the sharks. What are you down there to see, right? And so I'm excited about it, and both of these people are like friends of mine, and so I know that they're excited about it as well.
Be interested in hearing. Steve, do you know who Urban Community is?
I've heard the name, yes, and there's a few developers downtown now that are part of that, yeah. And Urban Community, there's another one, Urban
Catalyst.
Catalyst, yes. And so there's a few of those.
So, but Urban Communities, I know that Gary Dillabaugh has been talking to, what's their name, Westbrook? Do you know who they are? They're a Canadian developer that does really, really nice work that's it's not just, putting up the next building and trying to make money off of it. It's actually looking at communities from, that perspective you're talking about from an urban planning standpoint. What does it make to make a community thrive? And I'd be interested in hearing kind of what kind of more of that thinking and what the planning is. Because when I first moved to the Bay Area, I drove through San Jose and I'm like, oh my God, this climate's like perfect for having like an outdoor restaurants and cafes, and there's like almost nothing, right? You go to like Paris, the weather's much worse, and there's people sitting out in these huge outdoor cafes. And I was like, you could do that in San Jose, it'd be wonderful, right? And it's not like San Francisco where they do it and it's freezing cold. It would be perfect. And, we have a lot of street trees and the whole thing, it would be so good. So I I would love it if they would do something about that.
Yeah.
Saw that Kent Mather raised his hand, but I'm not seeing him now. Kent, did you?
He's there.
I
see him
see
up
him.
there.
See him?
On my mic open, can you hear me?
Yeah.
We hear you.
All right. I'm just curious if the chapter is still involved with the Downtown Association in their efforts to achieve the things that David's talking about. And I'm hoping that Scott and the other fellow will be enlightening the chapter, what they're in favor of at this point in time.
We just had that conversation today and there's a renewed effort. So renewed mission to do that.
No, they don't have we don't have anybody sitting on that committee anymore.
Steve is, right, Steve?
Yeah, we do have we do have a big architects community that sits on the Downtown Business Associations Committee. There's a lot of downtown architects representation.
All
And
right.
so, yep, we're reviewing that. I mean, there's members from Gensler and IBI and lots of other downtown architects as well. Gensler.
I participated as a chapter executive, so I'm not suggesting that this is anything that Chris needs to add to her list of duties, but is there somebody that's on the board that's involved with Scott and their group?
Yeah.
A previous board member, Katya McLean, has been involved.
Mhm.
I don't know if we have current board member, but that would be something that we could definitely look into based off of Scott's comments earlier today.
Yeah,
Is
you
there
might-
any,
Mhm. But Katya from Steinberg is on the committee as well. Yes.
Correct. Yeah.
So there,
yeah, I'm glad to see Scott still around you guys. He's been doing this for a long time, so
yeah.
he needs a lot of support and help, so that's good.
is there anybody, Thang used to be on the planning commission, right?
I want to say that Thang Do is still on it, isn't he? From ADIS?
I think he's off now. It's been
He's
quite a
gone?
while, but he was on for a while and he was
Yeah,
chair at some point.
but he was involved. Thang was. And we do have John Diffendorfer from ADIS is on the Downtown Business Association Committee, so he's part of that. So they do have representation.
Sounds like quite a few members are involved.
They are. It's a
Great.
great committee.
Well, it looks like Scott and Nate have joined, so if we can welcome them, and Leah, if you'd like to make the introductions and we'll kick off the meeting.
Do we have the ability to pin them up at the top? I'm not a Zoom expert, or I don't know if you can do that, Chris. If not, it's fine.
Let's see if I can.
I think Nate and Scott, if you just say hi real quick, it'll put you up here. And I'll introduce you both as that happens. But
Hi, everybody. Please don't notice how much less gray hair I had in that picture.
hi, Nate. Thank you for joining us. This is Nate LeBlanc, who is a San Jose native. And he is the business development manager for the San Jose Downtown Association and staff liaison to the Downtown Design Committee. He's got a background in the food hall industry, including previous stints as the manager of San Pedro Square Market and the general manager of Sofa Market, which gives him a unique insight into small businesses in the downtown core. And then we are also joined, of course, by Scott Knies. Oh, there you are.
Hi.
Hello, thank you for joining. And thank you for presenting this evening. We're all really excited. I think most people are familiar with you, Scott, that are here, but as an introduction, Scott is the executive director of the San Jose Downtown Association, a nonprofit organization representing business and property owners. As a downtown business owner, Scott was part of a group that originally founded the San Jose Downtown Association in 1986, who then hired him as the first executive director in 1988. The organization is a leader in revitalizing downtown San Jose as Silicon Valley's creative urban center. And Scott was also the recipient of AI Silicon Valley's 2012 Special Chapter Award. So has been involved with downtown in our chapter for quite some time, and we're all very appreciative of what you do and looking forward to hearing more about what's going on downtown. So I think we'll at this point turn it over to you to present your slides, I think. And the presentation we heard will be about 30 minutes, and then we'll turn it over to a Q&A session. We've taken some notes on some initial questions, so it sounds like we'll have a good discussion afterwards.
Is the screen sharing right now?
Yes, looks great.
All right, that's step one. Well, hello, AIA SV. I'd like to give a special shout out to former Downtown Association board member and our first Downtown Design Committee chair, Kent Mather. Great to see you on the screen tonight, Kent. So what we're going to do tonight, Nate and I are going to talk a little bit about downtown San Jose, and we're going to show some slides, and then we're going to open it up to Q&A. And we've got a bunch of slides, but we know architects are visual people, and you certainly subscribe as we do. A picture is worth 1,000 words. So certainly it's been a tough start to 22 with the Omicron surges and the stops and starts. And we really thought that this decade was going to be a decade of downtown San Jose. But we all know what happened in March of 2020 when COVID hit. And the pandemic just kept twisting and turning, surging and spiking, and businesses, some of them remain closed for almost 2 years now. Devastating conditions, especially in our hospitality sector. And shocking the economy right from the start and prompting Boston Properties to halt construction on Platform 16 in downtown West a week after breaking ground back in March of 2020. And the economic crisis caused by COVID, however, was only eclipsed by the public health crisis. The incredible speed that vaccines were rolled out and our collective local response to the pandemic by February of this year, of 2021, a majority of seniors were vaccinated in Santa Clara County. We very aggressively and successfully promoted vaccination sites, including this one in San Pedro Square. And we just wanted to make it easier and safer for people to return to their life activities. And now with vaccines and boosters free for everybody, I just think it's important for us to all realize that San Jose is the largest big city in the US with the highest vaccination rate. Well, by summer of last year, we were starting to get a little bit optimistic. Lights started coming back on. Even with hybrid work schedules, people started dribbling back into offices. And then when the state of California has lifted the tier system, remember the tier system? God forbid. We celebrated in July with a party. And then in the fall, San Jose State came back in the end of August. And it just reminded us how sometimes you don't know what you miss until it's gone, and how much we miss students, especially after hours. Sharks were back at SAP Center, this time with fans in attendance. Our beloved museums started to welcome visitors back. Activities returned in the parks, out in the streets. Entertainment venues started to welcome people back to theaters, clubs, and bars. Events returned in the summer. Whetting a thirst for social gatherings that had been denied for too long. Live music and performances indoors and outdoors returned. Customers and activity back in SOFA, San Pedro Square, the Historic District. And Nate, I'm going to let you take this next session.
Thanks, Scott. I guess I'll give you next slide cues when we're ready, or you can cut. Hopefully we'll sync up here. Anyway, in my role as business development manager here at SJDA, I work closely with our small business population, and we opened about 16 businesses, or at least 16 hospitality businesses. The people I work closely with opened during COVID. So they took this thing to do that was extremely difficult and then did it at the worst possible time. And some of them are still open and thriving. We're very proud of Nirvana Soul. You saw their manager, Dap Ashalu, who is also a SJDA board member, giving a speech in the San Jose State slide a little bit before. Nirvana Soul is the exact kind of business that we want to have downtown, that creates a welcoming environment and is doing everything right and adding to what I don't think, if you would have asked people, did we need another coffee shop downtown? They probably would have said no, but then you see this coffee shop and you're like, oh, okay, they're doing things a little bit differently. So hope everyone has a chance to visit. It's right near the AIA offices, very convenient for you all. This next slide is about cash only. That on the right is Cash Borin, pun definitely intended. But he opened a Johnny Cash themed bar where the dive bar used to be on Santa Clara Street. That's his partner Tamako next to him. And he also undertook this extremely difficult thing to do, which was open a nightlife establishment at a time where none of us could breathe on each other. And it's remains open and very successful, worth checking out. Natural Sweet opened in Sofa Market, also in Sofa. They do custom cakes and serve coffee and are just a overall little bright spot. Good Spot had a lovely grand opening with a full-on Vietnamese dragon dance and drum corps. I think Scott and I's ears are still ringing from when they lit a thing of 300 firecrackers in the doorway. That's Flo, a young lady who bought Max Club, one of our LGBTQ establishments on Post Street, and is bringing a lot of fresh energy and perspective to the street, which I think you all know is recently reopened. That's Academic Coffee, another stalwart coffee shop here in downtown. We arranged for them to get their temporary alfresco parklet, which you can see there painted, and we're working with them to try to convert that into a permanent solution. May need some architectural help with that. Their street has a crazy angle to it that makes it very difficult to lay that out. And this is the Sofa District looking north, Sofa Market on the left, Good Spot on the right. And the alfresco program is not just the closed streets, it's the access to being able to, for anyone with a quick page online permit, to put chairs and tables outside and enjoy our beautiful weather. It was the alfresco program. It was the extension of patios like here at Scott's Seafood, best business lunch place in downtown right now. Hopefully you're all taking your clients there, or they're taking you, I guess is the way that would work. And so we're also working with them to try to help expand this permanently, kind of an arduous process. They've gotten a bunch of extensions with the city, and we're working on them to try to make it more permanent. So a lot going on. These are the 4 mini bowling lanes in the basement of San Pedro Social. This is in the former AP Stumps, Los Gatos Brewing Company, AFK Gamer Lounge space on Santa Clara. Going to a preview of this tomorrow night. Not sure if I'm going to bowl, but they have a lot of different things to do. Bowling, axe throwing, karaoke. That's kind of a trend we're seeing there. The businesses are not only just restaurants, but they also come with a kind of added bonus of a thing to do. They're more interactive. So this is in the basement level on Santa Clara Street. Should be open to the public on, I believe, March 3rd. Large prominent downtown businesses like Hoag Fenton changed offices. They moved directly across the street from their old office into their new offices. And Mauricio Mejia there opened Punch King Fitness up on Bassett Street. Admit it, you don't want to be punched by any of them. They look scary. Great grand opening. We also do promotions here at SJDA. This was a St. Patrick's Day promotion. If you could find, it was kind of an elf on the shelf kind of vibe, so they tell me. But that was something to get people out walking around. If you could find the leprechaun, you got a kind of a deal with a QR code. And I don't think enough people talk about Nick the Greek as a local success story. He started on San Pedro and Santa Clara, and now has multiple locations throughout the Bay Area and is expanding rapidly. That is Autumn at 55 South doing another promotion. We were doing the Shop Small thing with American Express, trying to get people to visit small businesses during the promotions. that was our ad campaign. We worked closely with the parking board to do branding, and that heart downtown logo was something we just wanted to have everywhere during the pandemic to make sure people kept a little bit of a sense of hope at what was an extremely dark time for downtown. And this is the beautiful remodel of the former Fairmont, the current Signia Hilton, which is accepting reservations currently and will be reopening. They're doing a top to bottom remodel. This was the bottom, and I can't wait to get in there and see what it looks like. It's been a long time since I was in there. I believe I had a drink with a friend in the old hotel lounge right before COVID started. And now when we go back in, it's going to look completely different. And we're getting our signature hotel back downtown. So that's really exciting. The San Jose Symphony re-engaged the public with a big public concert and now is back to operating in the beautiful California Theater. And our kind of fellow nonprofit, the San Jose Chamber of Commerce, stopped operating as the SVO and went back to being called the San Jose Chamber of Commerce. These things are somewhat semantic, but they're really important for the branding of our city. I'm going to go find a light switch and pass it back to you, Scott.
Thanks, Nate. The expected power shift on City Council was indeed slight last year as we got 2 new council members elected who started in January. They, along with the rest of the council, were really dealing with side issues like canceling the Fallon sculpture in dealing with the pandemic. As you can see, this mural in the San Pedro Alley, the Fallon sculpture, somebody already canceled it. Even though Mayor Liccardo does not term out of office until the end of this year, we already have a heavyweight lineup of mayoral candidates, including council members Deb Davis, Matt Mahan, downtown councilman Raul Perales, who, by the way, was a new father yesterday. His daughter Sophia was born, and County Supervisor and former downtown councilperson Cindy Chavez are all running for the open seat of mayor in the June primary. So that is going to be a bash. And I just love this sign. I think it's the quintessential sign of San Jose in 2021, that the newly renamed Barack Obama Boulevard is on the left. So big real estate year. And nothing was bigger than the approval in June of last year by the city of Google's Downtown West plan. 80-acre mixed-use social district, 7.3 million feet of office, 4,000 housing units, a bunch of parks, 15 acres of parks and open spaces. Project approval also included a $200 million community benefits package. But perhaps what was most remarkable about the project, for one of this size that's fitting into the whole west side around Dearborn Station, was not a single lawsuit was filed for its approval or the EIR, not from the preservationists, not from the housing advocates, not from the bird watchers, not from the sharks. So there are no legal delays, which really means that Google can begin this year on its initial phase of development, which is planned to be around the front door of Dearborn Station. We certainly have a lot of these signs up around downtown. And we got a lot more new proposals always coming in, but let's differentiate what's in plan and what actually gets constructed. And let's celebrate a few of the projects that actually have cranes in the air. And really, Adobe is our most important project in many ways. The 4th tower topped out already. You can see the big knockout panel. That's going to be for a bridge that's going to be built across San Fernando Street, connecting adobe Vista Tower with the other 3 towers across San Fernando Street. J. Paul's office tower at Park in Almaden is also topped out, and the exterior steel and glass is already wrapped on the first floor. I was just looking at it today. So, you know, go out and look at it because it's going to change before your eyes every single day. One of the most interesting high-rise projects was over on the San Jose State campus, where this is the project's already skinned up. So this is the interdisciplinary science building, which is right at 5th and San Carlos Street. So San Jose State, I think, is sometimes overlooked as one of downtown's big developers. Over in SoFA, the Taft Apartments, 130 units by Equity Realty, the corner of Ballback and Market. And then just on the other end of Ballback at Almaden, Saha has a crane swinging over their 87-unit affordable housing project. The former Camera 12 building between 1st and 2nd has been completely gutted by Urban Catalyst, and they are creating an exciting mixed-use office and entertainment project called the Paseo. And Nate, it's so exciting. Can you tell everybody about 2 of the unique uses going into the Paseo?
Absolutely. I kind of hinted at that a little bit a second ago. They have a kind of a lively, drinky mini golf concept called Urban Putt going in. And then they also have an axe throwing use called Unofficial Logging. Always appreciate a good pun name. That's one. And then there will be 2 other kind of restaurant cafe uses. So they've got a full retail program going there to add to the already lively Paseo. We do pedestrian counts as part of our role here at SJDA, and the Paseo always ranks the highest for actual footfall. It's a lot of people getting off of the light rail and heading to and from San Jose State, but those are people that we want to capture, especially as San Jose State comes back full time. So we're really excited about that project.
Over in downtown West in Little Italy, this is where Poorhouse Bistro got moved thanks to Google. West Bank's Serpentine Pavilion is that temporary installation. We keep getting a moving date. It's now expected to open in June. This is on the Valley Title lot at the head of SOFA. We're also doing parks. Here's Councilman Perales at Pellier Park, broke ground in North San Pedro District. And then here's the depiction of what 200 Park, J. Paul's tower is. This is what you guys draw before, and we always like to see what it actually looks like once it's built. So this is almost 1 million feet of office corner of Park and Almaden Boulevard. J. Paul also finished its renovations at its building at the corner of West Santa Clara in North First Streets. But their biggest move in downtown by far is the redevelopment of the original Park Center Plaza in the very heart of downtown. So they're envisioning 3.6 million feet on the 8.1 acres between Market, San Fernando, Almaden, and Park. And the future of downtown has indeed shined brighter since West Bank and Urban Community unveiled their ambitious plans and stunning architecture. What's interesting about them is their holdings span from SOFA in the south to North San Pedro. And their proposals really are interconnected with the uses and the architecture. It includes major office buildings. You may have seen the story published this morning in the Merc online. Park Habitat, which is the name of this building. That's the Tech Museum in front of it. So it's right. They're not showing you 200 Park, the J. Paul building, which is behind it. The news story that broke today is they're going to begin demolition on Parkside Hall, and this building is going to commence construction. Very exciting. And this is what the architect's vision for the entrance to the building, trying to bring gardens. This is a discussion that we can have about some of the trends that we're seeing, since our design committee is seeing kind of all the submittals, and we're certainly seeing a lot of green in the West Bank urban community projects. Here's the Davidson building in the foreground that they're going to keep facing Julian Street, and then they're going to build the new, it's a called the Arbor behind it. Here's the view from the other side, looking from the north. And then at Fountain Alley parking lot, they have this futuristic mixed-use tower that's proposed right in the heart of the SoFa district that we think respects and complements the adjacent rehabilitation of arguably San Jose's most iconic and historic building, the old Bank of Italy at the corner of First and Clara. And I guess I could have shown a pretty picture of what the orchard is going to look like, but one of the things that the orchard is going to do is retain the design, kind of a cool look here of the building. They're going to keep this old Bowtown restaurant look into the project. And one block east on San Salvador, between 2nd and 3rd, Urban Community and Partners have proposed the fascinating 3-building residential project called Nabar, which is basically a rent-to-own concept, first of its kind. Another block east on 4th Street, Urban Catalyst has received city approvals for the Mark, the residential tower oriented to San Jose State. And Urban Catalyst was really busy last year. These are their 2 projects, 2 buildings on 4th in Santa Clara, between Santa Clara and St. John. The one in the foreground is an office, and the Echo in the back is resi. And then Nate, I'm going to let you talk about this important building.
Thanks, Scott. So this is Miro. I live a few blocks north of this project on 5th, and one of the very interesting things about living there is I get to see the lights come on as people move in. So there are a bunch of lights on in the 2nd tower now. So Miro is a project from Bayview. These are currently the tallest buildings in the city, and they have some great retail tenants. They moved the Starbucks from 3rd and Santa Clara over to 5th and Santa Clara. Big picture windows, a lot of activity obviously from City Hall and the surrounding neighborhoods. And then they just announced, I think last week or the week before, they signed a major restaurant deal with the Straits and Sino Group, which many of you may recognize from Santana Row, among other places, to take down 6,800 square feet for an Italian restaurant on the ground floor. So they're basically done with their retail leasing. They have a great mezzanine space that's pitched for creative office up on the 2nd floor, and then so many different apartments and amenities at the top, combined with this kind of stylish architecture. We awarded them the Golden Nail Award last year. The Jim Fox Golden Nail Award is our highest architectural honor, and our downtown design committee felt that this project was worthy of that. I heard Steve, one of our valued members, pitching the committee or a little earlier before we jumped on, or maybe before we were supposed to hop on. So I just want to encourage anyone on the call, if you'd like to learn more about the committee, I'm very available to be bought coffee, and we can chat or set up a Zoom call. I'll put my email in the chat here, and happy to talk to any of you about it. One of the really fun things we do is award the Golden Nail Award if something rises to the occasion and is worthy of an award once a year. And some of the projects that we've done have ranged from public space interactions like the alley in between the Modera project and the back of the buildings on Santa Clara, on between San Pedro and Almaden. That was last year. It was a rough year, COVID year. We were looking around for something to give it to. Something like Miro that dramatically changes the skyline and involves world-class developers like Bayview, much easier choice. It was interesting at our year-end review meeting where we did a version of this slideshow. They hadn't quite signed the deal with Straits and Sino yet, so they could only hint around at it. Even they wouldn't even tell me, and I'm really good at keeping secrets. So I'm glad to see that in the newspaper last week, and we're really excited about what this means for the future of downtown. To say nothing of just the residents. coming and utilizing that space, walking through the light sculpture at City Hall, going out, eating, drinking. That's really what we need for downtown to come back. But yeah, exciting project, and they've been really good to work with. And obviously, you know, silly of me to not even mention it to this point, it's designed by Steinberg Hart. Edmund Rivera is a member of our committee, and Katya McLean is our past president from SJDA. So we really admire Steinberg Hart. And we used to have many of our meetings in their lovely conference room at City View Plaza, which doesn't exist anymore. So a sign of the times, I suppose.
So Scott, I thought they actually got a golden nail.
This is better, Steve. This is a custom bronze lost wax award that weighs about 25 pounds, man. This is better. Bronze nail. I guess we should change it to the Bronze Nail Award.
Doesn't sound as good.
You know, what's gonna be the next project that breaks ground? This is the strange building on the Woolworth site that you know, just is right across the street from the Bank of Italy, that it thinks it's going to be funded by not by tokens. We'll see if that's the next project. I can tell you that we'd love to see Boston Properties move on this design over at Wa's Way, facing the Discovery Meadow. So it's entitled, Will It Break Ground? I don't think so. Will Sobrato break ground on their really interesting design by Arquitectonica at the corner of San Carlos in Market, which features a pretty cool rooftop bar here that would overlook Plaza Park and Original Joe's. Again, these developers are not building these projects on spec. They want to, as you guys know, they're clients. Interesting project here. The state of California has given permission for San Jose State to tear this building down, the old state building, and build faculties and graduate student housing. Urban Confluence selection of Breeze of Innovation is the winning design for their San Jose Icon project along the Guadalupe River. Was you can tell I'm in downtown San Jose. You like the emergency, coordinating the background noise for you here. And then, the pandemic did a number on the co-living project. So Star City went BK, and it's going to be interesting to see if anybody picks up the entitlements for the Bassett Street project. Lawrence Building burned in January of 21. Swenson proposed just keeping the facade and building high-rise resi above it. Not really sure what's going to happen here, but we'd like to see it. It's just all boarded up. We'd like to see progress. And then what becomes of our most derelict sites in the downtown, the Greyhound Bus Depot, or the Dr. U building, or the Church of Christ Scientist building, which has been under this big prophylactic for 3 years. When do we move on some of these key sites? Well, how important is it to get, as Nate talked, our lights on in one of downtown's most prominent buildings? So the Fairmont, 808 rooms, comes back online as Signia Hilton next month, and we'll reopen the end of March, and they're already taking reservations in April. And we needed our convention and hotel business just got creamed during the pandemic. And despite all the COVID headwinds, downtown development proposals, they just keep coming on. This is one from Mwali. Development submitted the prelim on this 250 Stockton Street, right across from the Whole Foods, over on the other side of the tracks. 915,000 square feet of office submitted to the city. Well, next big project to start construction, we already know it's Boston Properties Platform 16. They restarted 2 weeks ago. So they shut down at the beginning of the pandemic. And if there's any symbol of the pandemic receding, it's them restarting out here. They're going to build the first phase. They're digging for the garage is under 2 of the 3 buildings. So they're doing the whole garage right now, the excavations out there, and then they're going to build the first building, but the foundations will be ready to go for all 1.1 million square feet of office. I think the one that's going to follow next, the high rise, will be this 23-story Garden Gate by Scape group out of London with 336 units. This is at the very south end of SoFa, where the old Garden City construction used to be. And we know you guys are going to ask questions about BART, so we thought we'd put some slides in about BART Phase 2. It's certainly been in the news lately. Here is the downtown station layout. You can see it between Market and 3rd. So the current plan has this deep single bore tunnel that stacks the tracks at the stations. This allows the station to be constructed without cutting open 4 blocks of Santa Clara Street above it. This is, I think, a real interesting graphic. You're looking towards the east from Market Street. You can see the single board down in the right-hand corner. That's 85 feet below the surface. That's 8 stories underground. And then you can see their transit-oriented development plans on the entire Mitchell block with just a little bit of parking. And then, of course, there's another downtown station directly across from SAP Center. This is a little bit different because this station is off the street and to the side. The tracks are not, the subway is not exactly under Santa Clara Street here as it starts to turn up to the city of Santa Clara. So BART's underway, man. They've got bid packages out for the tunnel and track work. They're going to be looking at those bids here in the spring. And that's when stuff gets real, is when they get the money all put together. If procurement and funding stays on track, they think construction could begin in 23 and BART service in 2030. Don't hold your breath on that one. I think 2034 is much more realistic. Independent from BART and certainly not on a parallel track is Dirdon Station, which is the so-called integrated concept with high-speed rail, with Caltrain, with VTA in the city of San Jose. So you think it's complicated enough working with one transit agency, try to work with 4 at the same time. This is their slot. So if you think it's a circuitous route to get to Dirdon Station, I couldn't have drawn it up better myself to illustrate. We got a long way to go before that project's can come together. We also have a long way to go to finally make, you would have thought we'd had a connection to the airport by now. We're thinking about it. And parking's pretty important to our members. And right now, all of the transportation planners and a lot of your clients want to put parking in the back seat as if we already have autonomous vehicles and nobody's in cars. And that isn't the case now. So we know what conditions are today. We know what conditions are going to be in the future. Nobody knows how to get there in between and how much parking to have. The other big downtown topic is safety, and working with the police department, working on our mental health problems, using statistics to help us get there. There's just no substitute for uniformed San Jose police officers or the sheriff deputies. One of the big wins of last year was getting the county to finally adapt and approve War's Law. We're going to be rolling that out later this year, which will help us deal with a few of the folks out in the street who are a danger to themselves or others. We did a lot of homeless sheltering during the pandemic. Pacific Motor Inn and Sofa, the city wants to buy that, turn that into permanent supportive homeless housing. And let's just admit that the homeless became much more visible during the pandemic, whether in front of the Children's Discovery Museum, the line of encampments along polluted sections of the Guadalupe River Park, the middle of our sidewalks, the Central Business District, and our downtown public parks, the front steps of theaters with the handle of whiskey and bag of pills. And now that the colder weather is upon us, the fires have started in the encampments, and we already know how that scene too often plays out. Without proper facilities to go to the bathroom or dispose of trash, we have to provide extraordinary cleanup services. The city is increasing the funding for Beautify San Jose with one-time American Rescue Act money to help with the messes. And since a sizable percentage of our unsheltered population resists moving into housing, we've proposed ongoing funding to help keep up with the messes, as well as additional homeless outreach teams, which we plan on supplementing with the PBID money. So the PBID is the Property Business Improvement District. We have an assessment on real property in the downtown that funds Groundworks, the clean and safe program that we have. And we're right in the middle of the petition process because if we're going to make homeless solutions, it's going to be one person at a time. There's no panacea. It's just hard work. And we'll have these resources if the PBID is approved. The feedback we get is people love Groundworks, and we need to focus on the fundamentals. We have some modest boundary changes that we're going to do and add some new services like those social impact teams that are going to help mitigate some of the problems that our members that you have told us you're experiencing. So as I said, petition drive to renew PBID. We are right in the middle of January to March. We're in the thick of it. In fact, I'm surprised Nate and I could even do this event with you today because we're so much involved with getting property owners to sign petitions. And then because we're in the state of California, once they get signed the petitions, that just gets them a ballot. Then they have to vote yes on it. So it's fun never stops with it. Why do we want to renew the PBID? Because of these 28 individuals. I can't imagine what downtown would look like if Groundworks staff wasn't out there. Pressure washing, disinfecting, raking, detailing street furniture, sweeping up trash. Groundworks, by the way, does not use blowers, even during leaf drop season. We have this double-barreled ride-on vacuum that can fill 40 bags of leaves in one shift. Our ambassadors are downtown's eyes and ears. Under the PBID, we trim the trees and maintain downtown's urban canopy, the lush landscaping, the flowering planters, the hanging baskets. And part of the PBID's beautification program also includes ungirdling trees that are getting choked by grapes. And one of our major street life initiatives is putting decorative lights up in public places. And these are now all LED lights that can be programmed in different color patterns and make them dance. We did the same thing for the San Pedro Arch and lit it up purple and gold when San Jose State Homecoming was happening. Probably our major streetlight project of 2021 was this pocket park that we designed. It used to look like this. This is the former Emil's, for you old timers, the Emil's parking lot, which to say was blighted was an understatement. And now it looks like this, half the Vegelution garden and half dog park. And our PBID president, Chris Fries, and Councilmember Prowlis were all smiles at the June opening, but the happiest patrons were our four-legged friends. It's easy to see why murals are an integral part of our streetlight project. We work with local artists, whether it's just kind of making whimsical designs on beat up K rail to, something Alfonso Salazar's powerful Mwakma tribe mural in Guadalupe River, part of Powwow. And what's really great is some of our private property owners have taken it up. This is Dipco West, put the RBG mural up last January on their building at 2 West Santa Clara Street, and Rubicon Point Partners commissioned Bay Area muralist Jet Martinez to paint lilies at Market Square between their 2 high-rise buildings at Market and St. John. My favorite mural, though, of the year was The Offering by Roberto Romo on the Higher Fire building at SOFA, commissioned by Donor Network West, that honors young Hispanic organ donors with incredible imagery and storytelling. Hey, the year ended on a high. We got to have some of our holiday traditions return, Christmas in the park, the ice rink. It's so important to have these traditions, even though as the year began, we had the Omicron surge, we have drought restrictions, we already have warnings of longer fire seasons, escalating homelessness, gerrymandering of political districts, and tweaks coming to our commercial linkage fee. However, despite all of our challenges, I'm overjoyed to see people dancing in downtown again. And I really had a hard time choosing to share with you our one highlight of the year. Could it be the Harry Styles concert at SAP Center in November, or the incendiary performance by Judith Hill, who opened San Jose Jazz Summerfest in August, or the incredible show by the Monkees at San Jose Civic in September? Rest in peace, Michael Nesmith. The night cultural market at the Bowtown is always hopping with creative power, and the venerable midnight showings of Rocky Horror at 3 Below. But my favorite moment to share with you was the standoff over Guadalupe River between this cat and great blue heron. The cat won, by the way. So there are magical moments that are happening all the time in downtown San Jose. And we invite you not only to join the Downtown Design Committee, but to make your own. The passion, commitment, skill of our residents, employees, visitors, and architects is what makes downtown San Jose a more vital, livable, and just community. Thank you for your attention. And now Nate and I can answer any question you have about downtown San Jose.
Thank you, Scott, for that awesome presentation. And Nate, that was just a lot in a rapid fire. And I know you warned us that you had a lot of slides to go through. But it's just great to see all that activity, both current, future, what we can expect. I think, Steve, you had some initial thoughts when we opened this up beforehand, and we have a couple comments from others. Curious, I think David had some questions about community engagement and creating public spaces. But I'd love to turn this over to you, Steve, to kick us off with.
All I can say is Scott and Nate, that was better than I even imagined. But as our office is right downtown as well, and we're always looking for how is the downtown going to get better, because we're trying to figure out how we're going to open up our office at the same time. We're trying to think of what our office is going to look like in the future. So what are your thoughts on the downtown as far as, restaurants and lunch places and activity? I mean, we're on the corner of 2nd and Santa Clara, which is an incredible building. We have outdoor spaces, like it's crazy. But I mean, what are your envisions? Where it's all going to be outdoor, we're going to be walking the streets, we're going to close off the streets, there's not going to be any driving. What do you think is going to happen?
I'll say this to kick it off, Steve, that none of what you just mentioned is going to happen if we don't get back to the office, because this is an ecosystem, and the hospitality infrastructure does not work without the office footfall. So whether it's 2 days a week or 3 days a week, and I'm, you know, I considered taking this meeting from home. I'm working from home sometimes as well, but we're downtown. We're place managers. We need to be down here. Try getting a sandwich on a Monday afternoon right now. It's basically impossible. So the people who, in good faith, took out leases, took out loans, tried to set up, and when I say hospitality business, I'm mostly talking about cafes and restaurants. We could talk about nightlife and the huge draw that nightlife continues to be in downtown, but we're daytime folks, right? We're down here 9 to 5 for the most part. So we really need to see what it looks like when people come back to work, to have any kind of people here to serve so that these restaurants can just survive. Just imagine having gone through these 2 years and now the phase where the help is kind of over. So you've just gone through the 2 hardest years of your life. You have no savings. There's no more loan coming. There's no more help coming. We have to support these small businesses. And that's my job, is to, you know, beg people to go and support these places. And what I keep saying is, and this was really true in January, which for the small businesses that I spoke to was the hardest month of their lives, harder than March 2020, harder than December 2021. January of 2022 was the worst business month in downtown that I can recall. And many people who've worked down here a lot longer than me have said, the money you spend now will go a lot further than other funds you can give. And it's not about charity. It's not about like finding ways to donate. Just go have lunch or dinner and buy some drinks and bring your friends. And that's obviously my spiel and my job. And I'm sure Scott has thoughts on this as well. But if we're gonna plan for the future, it has to include office workers supporting the local establishments. And that's just kind of my take on that.
And I know there's hands up, but I just want to say I've got employees that refuse to come back because of the homelessness, right? They see the people camping out in the parking garage. We use the parking garage there on Third in Santa Clara. There's people living in the stairwell. And so they refuse to come back to work until that's taken care of. What do you see that happening?
Well, I tried to skim over it a little bit, or maybe not. I devoted about 20 slides to it. So you can't ignore it. Everybody's asking us to do something about it. We're a business organization. We're not a social service organization, but there doesn't seem to be much working, and people trust us to get stuff done. So now we're going to hire 5 employees, and we're going to create a social impact team, because we can't have somebody sleeping in the stairway of the garage. We need to have alternatives for these folks to go to, but there also has to be an acknowledgement that they're not the only victims here. And we hear loud and clear, Steve, from our members, do something about it. We don't care if it's the county has got all, millions of dollars of Measure A funding for behavioral health, and the city's got money, and all these nonprofits got money to do stuff for homeless. We're going to focus on the proverbial naked guy screaming on the street that terrifies people. That person is certainly a victim, and he needs to get some help. But what about all the employees that it's a snowball effect? They don't want to come downtown, and then we don't have customers, and now we have restaurants that are only open a few days a week, and we need to come back. And part of it is a big mistake I believe the public sector made here in this county, which was, it's the pandemic. We're just gonna, we're gonna cover our eyes, and we're not gonna do anything because we don't know how to do it in the pandemic. Nobody knew. We didn't know how to keep our businesses going, but we just ignored it. And now it's gotten much larger and more visible because you're not back in the offices, because they stand out. So the idea is for us as an organization to start getting involved with the solution and becoming one of those groups that is partnering with the social service work. Just like when we started the association, we weren't janitors either, but downtown was dirty, so we started cleaning, picking up trash, abating graffiti. So, just like what you do, you see problems and you want to solve it. You see the systems in a building, you see the desire to be sustainable, you see value engineering from the client, and you have to go and solve it. We're doing this on an intractable social. There isn't one city in the United States that has solved this, and I don't think San Jose is going to be the first, but we're not going to ignore it. I see David's got a raised hand.
Yeah, related to that, a couple of years ago, I had a chat with Sam Licardo about like tiny homes and kind of solutions for homeless and low income housing. Is the city moving forward with any of that kind of work, or is that kind of ground to a halt?
Yeah, the city has got a couple prototype tiny home, and they just had a new site over by the police department over on Mission Street over there. So they've got a few sites, but David, it's the same thing. You find a site, and they all can't, nor should they all be downtown or in the neighborhoods that already have that are already impacted with low income housing or multifamily housing that is substandard. And we need to spread it throughout San Jose, throughout the county. It needs to be in all council districts. And every time just about every time a site gets proposed, the neighbors, object. So everybody says, let's build some housing, but when you say where, not everybody agrees on the where.
So one thing I've seen is in London, the council housing, which is low income housing, is spread equally everywhere. So there's not like a bad section of town where all the housing is.
We support dispersing this type of housing, particularly the permanent supportive housing, which is code for the real tough folks. So they need wraparound services, and let's face it, there are impacts to the surrounding neighborhood with developments like that.
We have a question from Letitia in the chat. She commented that there are a lot of high profile tall buildings going on that feels very developer centric and privatized. And is there a plan to make streets more pleasant for use by everyone? Any major streetscape improvement plans that you can speak to?
Sure, I'll take this one. Initially, we meet monthly with the Department of Transportation, mostly so we can tell them what we think is wrong with their plans. I'm kidding, sort of. We have a standing meeting with them, and they are very focused on bike mobility, but really they're undertaking a rethinking of the downtown streetscape, and they're actually at a phase where they're seeking public input. So if Scott takes the next question, I can go and jump into my email and I'll throw the link into the chat. This is a great opportunity for people such as yourself who care about urban design and who have strong opinions about how cities should function to weigh in on their current iteration of their downtown transportation plan. They have a pretty lofty agenda for how they'd like to change, and something that Scott and I and what we consider ourselves to essentially to be proponents of urbanization, but pragmatists, is how do we accommodate all of the people who are supposed to live and work in these new buildings? And we've never really heard a satisfactory answer about that, but they do have some things that they're trying. So I will try during this rest of this meeting to put that link in the chat. But one thing I do want to point to, which is kind of a public-private partnership, is the City Engaged Landscape Architects, CMG. to do a really interesting rethinking of what Park Avenue can be. Park Avenue is a connector street between the downtown core. It essentially dead ends at Cesar Chavez Plaza and the Diridon Station area, which is, we all know, undergoing hugely needed rapid changes. And so the J. Paul and Urban or West Bank and the other developers there are pitching in to pay to, they're going to redo the street completely. It won't look like the other streets in downtown San Jose. They're going to smooth out the curbs and have it all flow in together. It has a really kind of forward thinking native plantscape. So that is, I think, a kind of test case. And if you notice, when Scott and I are answering, everything is in a pilot project phase. That's how you get things done in the city of San Jose. You call it a pilot project, you throw it to the wall and see what sticks. So this is a bit of a pilot project to see what a street that's undergoing a huge, huge investment and massive changes is going to look like in a few years. So that's one to keep an eye on. And I'll stop talking and go look for that link.
I think Letitia's asking a really important question. And I would say we're less developer centric on the ground floor. When we first started, the reason we got into, because think about my job. I just told you that we're based on property assessments. Who pays the biggest property assessments? The biggest property owners. So the developer centric people that are proposing this, and now we've got a design committee that's coming to them and telling them what's wrong with their design. Not a lot of job security in that, let me tell you. And when we first started, I have developers that won't talk to me because we said, you can't build that. You need to put, you can't put all of your back of house functions in blank walls facing the sidewalk. You can't, you don't need 3 vehicle ingress, egress, destroying the facade of the street. You can't make you can't bring your garage, across the front. And you can look at some of the buildings built recently that do this. I would say this next generation of designs is much more sensitive and aware of how important the ground plane is. And we still have developers that argue with, we can't fill the retail we have. Why are you forcing me to build retail? So we're starting to see a lot of other, all the resident bike stuff and other trying to do other activities. But if they're on a corner, we're not budging. We're forcing activities. And I think we've been a fierce advocate for trying to do that. And Nate mentioned, because 200 Park, J. Paul, the city, and West Bank, they're the only 3 property owners on Park Avenue. So to be able to coordinate a streetscape, because the city doesn't have any money, but they had to give an easement away. Well, let's sell that easement and use that money to do the streetscape improvements. You'd think that would be instant. Instead, Department of Public Works tried to nab all of that money. Instead, we're in there advocating, just fighting their own policies. It's like, no, you have to invest. The city, the public sector has to invest in their property too, which are these sidewalks. And frankly, since the demise of redevelopment, there's just no budget. The city has no budget for that. So if there's going to be cool stuff happening, it's being done piecemeal in front of each development, and it's poorly coordinated.
And I was able to locate that link for the transportation open house and throw it in the chat if anybody's interested in following up on that. Just be really honest with them, please. That's all we ask.
Really quick to jump in and reiterate what Chris had asked on the chat. If you're here, we'd love to welcome you to turn on your camera, show us your beautiful faces, and participate in the discussion. Chris, I think you were going to say something. I see Jason has his hand up, but were you going to add to that? Were you going to call on Jason? Okay, Jason, go on.
Okay. Nate and Scott, thank you very much. It's a great presentation and great to get caught up in what's going on. Question was more about during the COVID period, were there incentives or elements that were put in place to assist some of the maybe the small retailers you showed to help expedite some of the red tape? I know we were having challenges. I'm just curious about what was thought of and what was helped out or what's still in place these days.
Great question. Less than we would have liked to have seen. I feel like Scott can attest to this. I spent a lot of the early months of the pandemic just extremely angry and yelling at every elected official we could get a meeting with that things needed to be done faster, that this sounds so stupid, but we said it so many times in the last 2 years, you cannot let this crisis go to waste. You have to fix this. So there are a couple of examples of things that happened relatively quickly, but honestly, just for all of you, and this really is just kind of more like a pitch that I want you guys to know I exist, and I don't just pretend to be an architecture critic once a month. What I really do is help small businesses get permits. And so if your tenants or the people who are doing the TIs need assistance, send them to me. We have a standing meeting with the small business ally team at the city, and we utilize a program called SRP. It's the Streamlined Restaurant Program. And basically what it is, it's this amazing innovation that actually kind of went away during COVID. And I know I'm rambling, I'm going to get to the point in a second. The innovation of the program is, instead of passing the blueprints around to everybody's desk and they get lost and people forget or they're not prioritized properly, everyone sits at a table with their red pens and fixes things and gets to yes in one meeting. It's only happened a couple of times. I've worked in this job for 5 years. Occasionally you go in with a roll of plans and you come out with all your permits. It can happen. It takes really good architecture. It takes really good engineering. It takes people who know how to fill out a paper and to check each box correctly. But that's the big innovation in the city of San Jose that they've been able to do, that it helps people get permits quickly. During COVID, I helped them. I played the customer in kind of a role-playing exercise for our alfresco program, where they had their computer programmers on one side putting up a form, and then I would fill it out and we would see what happened on the other side. So we got kind of like a 10-minute permit out of it. They don't use it anymore. I'm begging them to put it into use on some other projects. But if a restaurant or a cafe, for example, wanted to put tables and chairs outside, all they would have to do is fill out one form in 10 minutes online and post their insurance. And to be honest with you, nobody was really checking it on the other side, which made things pretty easy. So in that way, there was some flexibility. I really was happy with the way that went down. And then we didn't talk about it much during the presentation, but we're happy to talk about it more. Getting San Pedro and Post closed for those blocks was extremely difficult. Like that was probably one of the hardest things I've ever done in my career. San Pedro in particular, because it's just so many different stakeholders in that area, and because it didn't seem like it could happen. So once it did, it proved the concept. And then Post, and then one other street in the Willow Glen area got to be closed. But it took a lot of kind of hectoring that things are different, that we were in survival mode, that these businesses weren't going to be there next month if we have to wait for another meeting. So I'd like to think that we use the sense of urgency around the pandemic to do some minor changes that helped people, but I am left with this really gross feeling that we didn't do nearly enough, and certainly the city government didn't do nearly enough to get out of their way. But there also just weren't a lot of people applying for permits. So, where does that leave us?
I think it's an important question just to say that the Coronavirus Relief Act, the initial tranche, huge trillions of dollars of support from the feds, and the PPP loans were very, very helpful, Jason. And most of our small businesses got that. But that came and gone. That got people through maybe the first 6 months of the pandemic, and here we are a year and a half later, and it's been a thin gruel, even though we had the ARPA, the American Rescue Plan money. I think the county got $450 million. And what did small businesses get? The first 75 million of that, they gave bonuses to every single county employee, whether they were on the frontline staff or, I mean, you could have prioritized so many different things, including helping small businesses out if you wanted to, but it didn't happen locally. There were obviously other priorities. Everybody talks a good game about helping small businesses, but then you know, the proof is in the cash register. They are the barometers of how do I pay the rent this month? And I tell you, there's going to be more business failings. And it's not just because, lucky downtown San Jose, we have a restaurant closed and seems to be front page news. Businesses come and go all the time. There's always attrition. It's a very risky, difficult enterprise. But right now, if you've got a favorite business anywhere, it doesn't have to be in downtown, order some food from them tonight. Go visit them. Your dollars will go further now than they ever have before.
Got another hand up. Sorry, I see Bay Area Concretes, but I'm sure that's not your name.
No, I'm John Vasquez. I have a couple of different hats I wear. I own Bay Area Concretes and work with many of your firms on several architectural projects, mostly Google. We're on Adobe downtown. I also am a business owner in downtown San Jose. So I'll be meeting Nate tomorrow at San Pedro Social that we're opening next week. And to address some of the comments that have been made, you know, the small businesses that are trying to survive downtown, the initial PPP loans were a huge help to keeping your survival going. The opening of San Pedro Social has been a challenging endeavor because we were supposed to open 16 months ago, but that has been delayed because of COVID, obviously. And so now it's a lot of on pins and needles, hoping that this great presentation of all this great development that is coming to downtown is gonna happen. But in the meantime, can we survive for the next year with this half, 3 or 1/4 of the business population being there? You know, and that's the real struggle, where you have these great concepts, these great buildings. This is all timing is going great, but without the people during the day, then we end up with the 3-day-a-week business that's open Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and half a Sunday. You know, so that's the real challenge for the small business and the entertainment, hospitality side of the industry out there, and trying to keep these servers and line cooks and everybody employed with more than just 16 hours a week. So those are the real challenges, along with, and which also was mentioned was the homeless. You know, we've hired private security to run around San Pedro Square from the front to the back to make sure that we are addressing any of those scary issues so that we aren't sending customers away. So those are all real world concerns and issues that are facing the downtown community.
John, may I ask what business you have in downtown?
The San Pedro Social will be opening, as well as Farmers Union. And so
You're a partner with our former board member, Mike Messenger.
Correct.
Awesome.
Mike Messenger is my brother-in-law.
Oh.
And so yeah, so you know, and the street closing of San Pedro was a huge help to that whole environment. So so it's been challenging for that whole area, but we're hoping for the best this coming year.
Okay, John, you and Mike have to sign your PBIT petition. You heard me?
Yes, we do.
Okay, I'm going to send it over.
Okay, we will.